Maxwell of Shallow Hooker Fishing, and in this video clip I'm going to show you how I service my 70 horsepower 4-stroke Yamaha outboard. So the first thing I'm going to tell you about is that the information that you need to purchase any type of oil, your oil filter, your water pump, thermostat, spark plugs, is actually on the engine itself. You just need to pop the cowling off, and the information is actually on the top cowling and underneath the bottom side cowlings. Also on the side is the VIN number or serial number that you can actually just copy that down and go to your local marine supplier or online supplier to purchase anything for servicing. First service I'm going to perform is the oil change. I have the appropriate amount of oil and my oil filter, and I also have the gasket for the oil drain plug. The first thing, I always put some rags underneath the oil filter, because as soon as you pull that oil filter off, there's some oil that's going to come out. And you don't want all that oil in your cowling, because it's going to eventually drip into the water and it's going to make a mess. So we put some rags underneath there. It's going to catch anything that's coming out of that filter, and you'll be fine. So first, locate the oil drain plug. On the 70 horsepower Yamaha, it's located in the back side, lower, and it's got a rubber funnel type device, which definitely comes in handy. Especially once you pull this drain plug out, the oil will start rushing out. So definitely have a suitable catch can, oil drain pan of some sort to catch all the oil. Now, once you've removed the drain plug, make sure that you do change out the gasket on the drain plug. This is a one-time use gasket. It's a couple cents. Just put one on. So after you secure the oil drain plug, go ahead and add the oil to the engine. This engine takes 2.2 quarts. I use what is recommended by Yamaha. And after I add those quarts of oil, I go ahead and I'll check the oil level. I like to keep the level on this engine about halfway up the indicator marks. So the second part of this video, I'm going to show you how to change the oil in the lower gear case. The one thing I want to remind everybody is this is a Yamaha, and in the picture in front of you shows the adapter that you need to have to actually perform the gear lube change on the Yamahas. Some come with it, some do not. So when you're at the store and you're looking for a gear lube pump, make sure it has the adapter for the Yamahas. I like to remove the lower drain plug first and then go ahead and remove the upper, so it drains a little bit smoother. Make sure again you have a suitable drain pan or oil bucket to catch this. It can become sloppy. Through the miracle of time, we're ready to fill. Now, I have my adapter on, and we're going to go ahead and fill from the bottom plug and pump it until it comes out the top plug. Once it comes out the top plug, it's full. So I go ahead and make sure I replace again the gaskets on the drain plugs. So put a new gasket on the top one and go ahead and install it, and then go ahead and remove the pump and install the lower drain plug, also with the new gasket. Now it's time to change the spark plugs. So my 7D Yamaha has 4 cylinders, so I have 4 spark plugs to change. A couple things I want to make sure when I am changing out these spark plugs is that I want to make sure that none of them are damaged coming out of the box, and I also want to make sure that the gap is correct. The information what you need for this particular engine is located on the top cowling. It tells you the gap and the actual particular spark plug that is required. When I'm reinstalling these spark plugs, there's a lot of things that a lot of people put on. A lot of mechanics like to use never sees, and there's a couple other things you can put on so they don't basically seize into the cylinder head. I particularly like to just use a little bit of engine oil. I put it on the threads. I haven't had any problems. So this next section, I'm going to be showing you how to replace the raw water pump in the lower gear case. Once all the nuts and bolts are removed, it's time to drop this lower unit. Don't forget, when you drop this down a little bit, you may have the speedometer tube still connected, so make sure you remove that as you're taking the lower unit off. So go ahead and remove the 4 retaining bolts holding the water pump housing on. So once the hardware is removed, go ahead and remove the water pump housing. Once the housing is removed, the impeller is still there. I like to use 2 flathead screwdrivers. We're going to go ahead and put them 180 degrees from each other. Go ahead and pry up on the water pump. Try to pull it up really even It'll pop up. Once it's pulled up, you go ahead and remove it by hand. This impeller is 2 years old, so it was due. Now, the next thing, and sometimes this can be a bear, the little keyway. I like to use a small flat screwdriver or a chisel or a punch, a flat punch, and a hammer, and you tap on it to pop it out of the slot. Now once that keyway's out, then you can go ahead and pry on the water pump plate and the gaskets. And once that's removed, go ahead and clean the surface areas, make sure there's no gear lube. And now we're ready to match what I have come off the actual lower unit to what comes with the Yamaha kit. In the kit, it comes with several different gaskets, so I make sure that you pick out the right ones and make sure that you're putting the gaskets back together in the correct order that you removed them. Any mistake with this can cause an overheat, and definitely taking the water pump apart all over again. Note, when you're installing the gaskets and the plate for the water pump, there are dowel pins to guide you. Also note, when you're installing this keyway, it's a good idea to put a little grease on it for ease of removal a couple years down the road when you're replacing the water pump again. So a common mistake is that we don't force the impeller onto the keyway. Make sure you do align it correctly. Use a little soap and water if you have to. The impeller will slide onto the keyway correctly. Once it's on the keyway, make sure that the impeller is all the way flat onto the plate. When that is in position, then go ahead and install the housing and rotate the drive shaft over the impeller. It will slide into place. So some preventive measures that you can take, especially when you're installing this lower unit, is to grease all the bolts. This is definitely going to save you some headaches in the future. When you're removing the lower unit in a couple years from now, the bolts are going to come out. hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And please like and subscribe.